Okay, hello everyone, whether you're watching live or on the replay. I am live trading on the London to New York crossover, and as you know, the strategy I use is Harmonic Scanner and pitchfork. So let me just get up a particular group. That's it. Just sometimes my screen goes off. There we are. See if I can keep that on. Right, okay, so I should be on for about an hour. I'm setting up charts. I'm in one trade at the moment. It's a bit slow because it's not what they call a hot pair or JPY, and I'll show you why I'm in it, but it's not moving very much. The reason that there are hot pairs is because money moves faster, obviously, when the sun is up, when there's things happening in that country. So obviously Australia at the moment is 12 hours. I'm in Paris time, so that would be 10, it's early hours of the morning, and Japan the same. So it may not move until I get to the Asian session, which would be 2 o'clock in the morning my time. Now, the one I was just setting up at the moment was CAD. And hello, Edward, nice to see you. So just bear with me while I show you this scan, but I was just in the middle of adding it on, and I just need to check that I've got the pitchforks on correctly. So what you do is you go back to the 1 minute, you put it on magnify, and you can see, because you're setting it up off the 1 minute chart, but you can see it's very important that these points are on. This is a pitchfork point on the D point on the harmonic scanner. I'll zoom out and show you the 1 hourly in a minute, but I work off entries on the 1 minute and a 10 pip stop loss. So these scans, the good thing about this strategy is that these scans remain valid over many, many months. We were trading off one the other day that was a year old. It's amazing how price keeps coming back into these points. So you'll always be able to find a trade. But if your points are off, then over a period of time, you could be out 50 or 60 pips, which clearly, would put you right off. So you just need to go down to the 1 minute once you've put the new scan onto the hourly, and make sure that it's on the nearest high or low. And then I click the drawing tools, because you don't want things, the magnets, you don't want things to be slipping off as you're dragging this over. So that's the D point. Let me just, this is the only bit which is a bit fiddly, but it's well worth taking the time for those reasons I've just said. Let's get down to the C point. And sometimes, because with the harmonic scanner, it will only take you back 2 weeks, so you'll have to go down and do this on the 5 minute, but do as much as you can on the 1 minute. So here's another one. I drew it accurately on the 1 hour. I lined up the times, but you can see it's off on the 1 hour. So you go down to the 1 minute and make sure it's on the nearest lowest or highest point, and that's how you can get to an accuracy of a 1 minute entry and a 10 pip stop loss, unless you're on a GB pair where you will need 15 to 20 pips stop loss. And then I am in a trade at the moment. We'll go and look at that, and then I'll go through the other New York session pairs, anything with USD or the Canadian dollar in them. And I'll show you some of the scanner. So there's my B point, and again you can see that doesn't matter so much because there's no pitchfork on it, but I usually, obviously I'm going through anyway, so I just get them lined up anyway. Hi Les, thanks for joining. I was just saying that I'm just going through, I was just marking up one scan from earlier, a new scan I didn't have. So this is the only fiddly bit. I'm sorry if it's slightly boring. I've nearly finished. You just need to go down to the 1 minute and make sure the point's on accurately. And this is because we use a 10 pip stop loss and scans are valid. This is why I love this strategy. You'll always find the trade once you've learned how to mark up the charts. You can use it on Bitcoin and gold as well, pitchforks, and you'll always find a trade. You can move up and down 20 pips through the pitchfork bands. And even if there are no signals called out, once you've learned it, you'll find that I think this is either slow to load or what date am I on? Or I need to go to the 5 minute. I think I need to go to the 5 minute now. As I say, on the scanner, it'll only allow you to go back 2 weeks on time. So just let me get back to that next point, because there'll be the beginning of the pitchfork on that. So with this strategy, you will find multiple trades within the pitchforks. There we are. You see, even though I've marked it accurately on the hour, you need to make sure it's accurate on the 1 or the 5 minute. That must have been used, that big drop there. Otherwise, your pips will be out over a period of months by up to, it will spread. So, it'll be out 50 or 60 pips, which clearly, mess everything up. So that's done. So I'll just save that, go back to the 1 hour, and let's start seeing if there's anything to look at. Please feel free to ask questions and join in on anything. So this is so I'll go back to the scanner. This is on our new website, the IM Center and the IM Academy, and here are all the products. So this is their version showing here, which is really good. There's a lot of scans on it. You'll find your brokers here. They're all similar in terms of the scan. The only important thing is, if you look down here, you must make sure that the scanner lines up with your local time zone. So for some reason, whenever I log on, it always puts me in Turkey, which is UTC +3, and clearly I'm not in Turkey. So I always have to click, I'm on Paris time. So UTC +2, otherwise you can't take the points exactly. So that's what I was doing before I came on here. There's that big drop we just looked at. So I marked it up. Please ask me if you want me to show you how to actually copy and paste a scan, either in this session or outside of it, and I'll show you. You can do it 2 ways. You can take the actual time point you'll see below. So the X point was 11th of October at 1400, or as you get more used to doing it, you're just taking the high to the low or the low to the high. So you can just do it visually and then double check it lines up. I do a mixture of both. More normally these days, I'll just go high to the low, looking at the points, and then come back and see that they line up, and then you just caught me doing that. I'll go back to the 1 minute or the 5 minute to make sure the points are exactly accurate. So once you've done that, this is now good to trade over many, many periods of time. I don't necessarily look at these. I mean, I do look at them, but I don't take my entries off them. And we'll go in now on a trade I'm actually in before we look at the others. I don't know how it's going. I've set the stop loss and the take profit. And obviously it's one that actually isn't a New York trade, it's all JPY. I'm in for a buy. It's moving in it's only moved about 10 pips in, I measured it in, a couple of hours. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll go and look at it in a minute. So this is showing me that, and the other thing, whenever I'm drawing up a scan, I only take 1 hour upwards. I don't use the smaller scans, because on this strategy, we're looking for, it's going to be a minimum of 80 pips. Now, the point is the 4th digit. You ignore that. So this is 140 pips. The 1 is a point, so you don't need that. So that's well over my minimum of 80, and that's because it gives us 20 20 pips between each pitchfork, and I work on a 10 pip stop loss, so that's a 1:2 ratio, and that's just simple maths done for me. So that's why we like this strategy. And you can swing trade on it, because you'll move your stop loss to stop profit on your first trade, and then as you see it still moving down, you can do what we call stack in. So it's quite a safe way of having a risk-free trade and swinging those bigger pips. So that's ORD CAD. So if we go back and look at it on the hourly, so this is how I would analyze it. It's well within the band, so I'll just take off on the settings. I don't need the extensions. I always think of the extensions as a bit like Bollinger Bands, that price pings out to those. This is another one of my favorites, the orange line, price moving. These are 50 pip bands, and this is how bankers settle up. So the last 10 minutes before the hour, you might get fake outs in the different direction from the trade that you're in, because bankers are settling up at that particular time, and they're lazy and they settle up at zeros and 50s. So for me, quarter point is a very, very strong line, or for anyone, strong line of support and resistance. So if I look on the hourly, the decision-making process would be for me that this is from the D point. It's the trend is your friend. It's a downward direction. You must have a break and retest, and you must have a touch of the pitchfork. So the strongest entry that you can take is off the D point, where it's done a break and retest, as it's done there. And as you can see, price has moved down, broken through quarter theory, and it's now halfway down to the next pitchfork. So for me, that isn't a trade at the moment, because although I would trade if these points were bigger on some of my bigger scans, what we were looking at last night's 40, that's quite a wide one actually. We were looking at just using these orange lines, so the EMAs, so I'll just explain those in a minute. We were looking at using those and analysing. I need to do more. That's 140 pips, so actually each scan is about, each section of the pitchfork there is, what, 20, going to be 30, 35, 35 times 4, yeah, it's about 35 pips, so it is slightly bigger. So from here down to the next line, the pitchfork line, is 30 pips, and to the quarter point it's 35. Now, another point to make is once you're coming off the D point in this strategy, we only take it in line of the scan until it reaches the median point, and then it's fair game for anything. So I would not be taking a buy at all, regardless of what anything else was telling me on this scan, until it's come down to the median. So on this, these two lines, this orange one is the 62 EMA, and this other one is a length of 930. Ask me if you want me to show you the settings, and that gives you the 1 minute EMA. So what we've been back testing is that when you see the EMA like this, price is above it, so you know you're good for a buy, and then when it crosses over and comes down below the 15 minute, that's a strong indication, as you can see here, that it's pushing it down, so price will be underneath it. So can you just trade off these two? So we were actually discussing that last night, and it was really, really good. So if I did want to take this as a trade, then I'm not sure that it's, I really want to sort of go into it that much more, because to give you the biggest chance of success on this strategy, you really want to be pinging off the pitchforks, because they are strong reversal points with Fibonacci already built in. So the scan has Fibonacci built in, the pitchfork has Fibonacci built in, and they are stronger lines, stronger than trend lines. They're strong trend lines, strong lines of support and resistance. Although I do like the fact that it's got a quarter theory above there. So if I go down to the 15 minute, which is where I do my analysis, then, and I would also look at the time. So we've just passed 14:15 my time, and very wicky, it's sidling along, it's doing its thing. So not a lot of movement. And then my Bible is this is my check sheet, which is the main currency pairs that I trade with the speed of the currency between 0 and 10, and that does affect which pairs that I prefer. We all end up with preferences. So if I look at OddCAD, it's actually a speed of 3, so out of 10, so not a very fast moving pair anyway. So that tends to put me off a bit because I am more of a quick in and out girl, although I'm going to really try and do I'm going to do the banker's strategy, because I do like that as a swing trading style, and I like the idea of us being ahead of the bankers. So then I would just put my lazy man. What would I do next? On the one, so I'd go to the 1 minute if I was seriously looking at this as an entry. But on the 1 minute, now the 1 minute is like looking at a strong wind across the through a wind tunnel, and the 15 minute is more like the breeze across the ocean. So whatever is going to happen on the 1 minute is your most recent, and that's the market's moving the same pattern across any time frame, and that's going to play out across the longer time frames. So here we can see we've got a flat line on the 62 EMA, and in fact price has just pushed above it slightly. If I put the pivots on, then I will look at my highs and lows. So from here I would try and see if there is a trend line to be drawn. As I say, I'm not desperately keen on taking this one anyway, but this, you know, it's not necessarily a bad one to look at, but it's in the middle for me, in the middle between pitchforks. It's not really, although it's 35 pips instead of 20, it's not that bigger scan for me to say I'll take it in the middle, because some of these scans are 300 or 400 pips wide, really big scans. So they're ones where I'm more likely to take a trade where it's swinging in the middle of two sections of the pitchfork. So I'd probably draw my trend line. Probably, I think I quite like something like that. And I always stick to the same colours. So that's an alert line. So my trend lines, I always draw them in green. And let's just bring that back. And then what I would do is I'd be looking at where this 15 minute is coming down. So ideally, you know, you want this 62 EMA to be pointing down. And I use this on the exit strategy. This is the MTFA hull. So if I just let that load, should load on the 1 minute. This is where you get the Star Wars effect on my charts. So the bands at the back of the 15 minutes and the line going through green and red is about a 30% lag on it as it changes. Green from saying the 1 minute is going up in line. So you can see here that it was reversing. You've got the 15 minute band, and then it said it's starting to come down, although this is saying coming up. So the 1 minute coming down, so that's why it's reflecting that it's sidling along, doing its own thing, just hugging the 62 EMA, not really doing anything. So let me turn the pivots off so you get a bit less sort of confusion actually looking at it. So now we can see price has decided it's dropping. It's 22 minutes past. I don't know why it's decided to drop at this particular time, but it's coming down below the 62 EMA. So at this point, I might get interested and put a short position on this in line with that 62. For me, it's always a 10 pip stop loss. I like it to be across a pitchfork, or it's just about on that quarter theory, which is nice for me because I'll probably put it slightly the other side if I was taking this at this point, or I'd wait for price to come down a bit more, because then you've got your safety barriers between you and price reversing to help you get out if it goes the other way. So the more barriers, the more safety barriers, like having a pitchfork and quarter theory between you and price reversing on you, the better. So I put, there's my, so my average is to do something like that. And I wouldn't be taking this at the moment because I've still got that green 15 minute. I'd move this trend line here. It is coming down quite sharply. But as I say, the only thing that puts me off taking this trade is that it's not my normal rules of reversing off these pitchforks, even though this is a slightly bigger scan of 35 pips between pitchforks, when usually they are 80, you know, they're about 20 per pitchfork. So I'm not a great fan of taking them when their price is right in the middle. So that probably is no trade for me, but the overall logic of it is it's a sell. And then what I would do is I would set an alert, but as I say, I'm normally working just off the pitchforks. So I'm not that confident, unless it's a very big scan, to take trades where on this strategy when it's in the middle of pitchforks. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't. So 1424, my next thing that I would do would be to wait for the 30-minute candle, or look for the 30-minute candle. So I've gone on to the 30-minute time frame. You can see it a bit better here. So again, it is working. As I say, this is 3. It's a slower pair, 3 out of 10. It's worked its way down below quarter theory. That's a very good sign. That's on the 30-minute. I only ever enter on the 1 minute. It's now below the 62 EMA. Check, another good sign. So check below quarter theory, big check there, big check below 62 EMA, and obviously it's below the pitchfork. Love that. That to me is great. That says there's a good signs for it's a good sell. But probably for me on OrdCAD, I would put this is what I'd be looking for off this point here. So off the pitchfork, I'd be looking for it to do that, in which case it's most definitely not a trade for me, because I'm only sticking to my rules of taking a sell down to the medium. So I'm only going to be looking for that, or that kind of move where it breaks and retests the pitchfork, then moves down. And if I was taking the trade at this point, I would be safe myself, and I would probably wait for it to come below the quarter theory as well, which might mean I lose some pips, but it means I've got a safer bet on measuring this up on the 30-minute of there's 45 pips, yeah, because your quarter theory bands are 50 pips, so that could be quite a nice trade, but not one for me at the moment, because I don't like that fact it's sitting in the middle of there. So now we'll go to the one that I'm actually in and see what's happening. So at the moment it's not stopped me out. I don't know why I say my internet connection's unstable. Sorry about that. So this is how I mark things up. That's the 5 minutes. Sorry, or JPY. It's probably not the most brilliant of trades. Then it's what speed is it moving at? It's a 6, but we're not in hot pair country, are we? Because it's not. We're in the London to New York crossover, and I've picked the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So this probably won't move until the Asian session, which I will be on tonight. I will look at this. So I'll just take you back out to how I start to look at when I'm taking a trade. I did one this morning that was successful. I've forgotten which one it was now. I'll have to go back and look. I've got 11 pips, and the reason I just stopped it directly at the best point when it hit quarter theory. I wasn't going to wait for the 20, and sure enough it reversed, so I was very pleased I got that one right. So just let me take these off, because I don't need the extensions on. So here we have this latest scan from the 19th of October. Pointing up, so the trend is your friend. It's an upward trend. It hasn't quite hit the medium point, so about 584, so it's about 5 pips away. That's too big for me to consider that it has actually hit the medium point. Oh, it's more than that, I think. 515 to 584, so that's about 7 pips away. And you can see it didn't like quarter theory. It bounced back off that. It came down to that pitchfork point, and that's worked its way down to the D point. If we go on but generally an upward trend, and price is still on the hourly beneath the 62 EMA. So let me go down to the 15-minute. Just let it load. And here we have it In fact, I will just go directly to my 1 minute because I can show you more clearly my analysis on it. So we know it's an upward trend. We know it's come off the D point. We know that for me, I'm only going to be doing buys on this currency. And also, or JPY is not at the moment a hot pair for reasons I've said on the previously. Just trade the hot pairs. They're the currencies that are active. People are moving around buying things. So in New York, it's going to be USD and CAD. These orange ones I've got up here. I don't know why I've got Euro Ord on there, by the way. Sorry about that. Oh, because I'm on the wrong list. That's why. I need my blue list. So these are the ones I've been looking at on New York. So on the 1 minute, the reason that I decided I would get into this, I'm only on a small lot size on this, is it's an upward trend. I'm only on the going to be buying on this anyway until it hits the median. I don't think it'll go back far enough to show you. Let me take the pivots off. You don't need that screwing things up on your view. Might not go. There we are. So I'm on the 1 minute, but I just wanted you to be able to see what we mean by the D point on the scan that's been drawn. So there you can see on the 1 minute, and now I'll just zoom out for you why I got into this trade. Well, that might not have been the best time of day to have got into it, to be fair. I think that's one of Liz's phrases. So the reason I got into it is I've had this is on the 1 minute, 1, 2, well, let's just count the big ones. 1, 2 rejections saying it's going to come up. It does not it's not going to come down through that D line. So it's retested the D line twice. It's then come up. Really, I probably should have gotten here, but I was a bit late to it because, and well, my excuse is I was moving furniture, but I did like the look of it enough to say I'll get in. So actually, by the time spreads and commissions, I didn't get in till up here. So it is a bit late because I then measured it and it had moved about 10 pips already. So maybe that's going to be my error. I don't think so. It's not hit my stop loss yet. I did put a fib on from, but sometimes I'm never quite sure with fibs if I've got them right. But I put it on up here. Sorry, I put it on down here because if you're buying, then you want to go from the lowest to the highest. So there's my low. There was my low point, the last previous low. I've just drawn the line out there so I could see it as price was moving along, but it's there up to there. And what I was looking at was had it hit the 88.6. I don't tend to use the 70, the 71, whichever one it is, but I will do on the banker strategy because I know they use it there. Is it 71.8? I forget now. So 88.6, and you can see price just perfectly. There's a slight tiny edge of the wick through there, but it did hit the 88.6 and it's tested the 88.6 there and rejected it twice. So I like the look of that. That says to me, so it's rejected that line twice, it's rejected the 88.6, and these are what I mean by having safety measures, knowing that you're going in the right direction. You've got these tests between you, and now you can see on the 1 minute, it's probably now start to move my, I do move my trend lines across, and I'm looking for a break. My confirmations, 3 confirmations out of the ones I use, which is, has it hit 61.8 or 88.6 fib? I won't show you the trade sheet now, but I do have a trade sheet that Mark Simmons created, and I added the exits on for exit strategy. Thank you very much. I have to shut some down. Suddenly decided it doesn't like some of my things. Let me go back to my old JPY on the 1 minute. Right. 15 minute. Let me go back to the 1 minute. Sorry about that, guys. So it didn't like the I happened to get in at 74.3 dead. I just want to move that back where it was. Right, so let me just increase that. So this is the point at which I would want to start moving my trend line. I just lost my train of thought there. That's it. So it's coming up much steeper now. I don't know why, because it's not a hot pair, but it is now. So I'm getting more and more comfortable with this because I've had the 2 rejections off the pitchfork there with the break and retest, and sorry, rejections, 2 rejections, and then a retest of the 88.6 where it's touched it perfectly, and now it's trying to push up above my 62 EMA, and I've got the 15-minute line coming down. So once that 62 crosses the 15-minute one, the 9:30 length, and it's 9:30 because it's 62 times 15-minute candles, which gives you the 9:30. So for the 1 minute, then I should be feeling comfortable that, you know, it's carrying on moving in the right direction. So I've marked my 10 pips. These are whenever I post these pictures in the group. I always put it at the 10 pip. There's my 20 pip. I'm not sure what it will do at this pitchfork point. That's all, so I'll be keeping an eye on it there. Once it does this, then what I do is I clone it. I've got an alert set here, so it'll ping on my phone, and I'll move my stop loss to about 1.5 pips. So there, once it's come up to this point, I then move my stop loss to that's called a stop profit, because if it reverses on me, at least I've got a risk-free trade and not giving money back to the market. So at the moment it's pushing down again. Now, for all I know, it might come back down, decide it's aggressively, you know, it might do this as it reaches the hour, that it's going to break through the 88.6, but that's one of my barriers. You can see it's pushing down, and it might decide it's going to break through, and this is what bankers do, don't they? But it might decide like that one, it's going to wick down to 74.172, in which case it will take me out because I've set my stop loss at 10. And the thing I've learned is that I don't tend to move my stop losses around, because otherwise you're just playing with all the rules you've set on how you're going to take a trade. Not nice to lose money, and no, we don't want to do that. And to be fair, I should have got in. I know what, you know, I do a lot of back testing, and I should have got in at this point here, but then it still would have come down to the same point. So I would have been in that for, so it moved up about 10 pips because I measured it before I came on. So if I measure the time there, that's nearly an hour of me sitting staring at it, only to end up back in the same position. So, and it's below the 62 EMA, it's below the 62 EMA. So maybe I have got in too early, because as I say, it's not a hot pair. It's probably not going to move much now up into, you know, profit until the Asian session. So, but at the moment, I don't think I'm going to, you know, it's going to stop me out. And my stop loss now is below that pitchfork. So I like that on the 10, the stop loss of 10. I've got a safety barrier there. But let's just see before I move on to another pair, if it's going to reject that 88.6 again. Because it's kind of flatlining on the 62, and the 15-minute is flatlining, so I'm hoping that means it's not going to carry on pushing down to retest and break that one. Just move my line along on my fib. So I'll just wait for this 10 seconds. See what it decides it's going to do off this 88.6 again. So I am in drawdown at the moment. So you know, don't always take what I'm showing you. Oh, so it's just finished that candle, and you can see it did a little doji on us there. There. So indecision candle, and it hasn't quite filled its order there, but obviously I'm not going to sit and stare at trades, because I try to train myself not to do that, because all that happens is you get stiff and tired. It doesn't do you any good. And ideally, you know, what we want are trades where we enter and they just run straight away, and it's fantastic when we get those. So look, it's just turning up again, but you know, I mean, it's as I say, you know, it's snaking its way along. It's not hot pair, but at least it's not stopping me up. So I will come back and look at this every 15 minutes or half hour, but you know, and I don't know what the spreads and commission will do when the market closes tonight. So I might have made a bit of an error of judgment. There's another doji coming up there. But I would be hoping I can get it to the situation where, you know, I can see it coming up to there and at least put my stop profit in, and then just leave it. So you see, it has, if I have drawn the fib correctly, because I'm not always sure I'm doing the right thing, it has rejected again off that 88.6. So, you know, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable, but I want it to get above that. So that's all on the one that I'm actually in at the moment. So let's look at USD JPY, and I had to close some of my windows, didn't I? So USD JPY. Where are you? I can't see it on my list. There. Okay, so let's have a look what's doing. Let's go to the 1 hour. And let me show you the scan. I hope I haven't missed the scan on this, because I don't think so. I think I did look very recently, because I thought, well, maybe there's another scan. Let me take off some of this, because it's not what you want to be looking at. I'll just hide those, because I like to come back and do my back testing on various different things, because that's how I think you learn how to improve what you've done and how to read the lines on any chart. Right, so this was my, if I think I've got it right, my latest scan. I'll just double check the scanner in a minute. Was this one where I couldn't do anything because it's come outside all my scans at the moment and I hadn't drawn on? You can draw a second pitchfork, which is X to, which is X to A. You put the end of the pitchfork out in the middle of nowhere. So that's a bit more advanced, rather than just drawing X to C to D. So, and if you've got an upward facing scan, your second pitchfork must face the opposite way. So if you're upward facing scan, your second pitchfork would face downwards. Let's just measure this one. So here we had a 192, 200 pip scan, which I drew, back in August. Now that's interesting. Let me go back to the scanner and just see USD JPY. I tend to always start, there's one. So I know I did miss some this week because I was tired when I was on some of those late night calls. That's my excuse. And usually I can keep up with them. And then I hadn't got onto their Pit Talk channel on here, you know, switching from old systems to new. So I knew I missed one or two. So there, that's this. What's this scan? Mine has to be a minimum of 80. Oh, and I didn't draw this because it's 47 pips. So that's not a scan for me, because I only work off the bigger ones. And I can't see USD JPY. I can't see anything there on the hourly. I'll just look at JFX. Can't see anything. FX choice. That's got the same one probably. Yeah. The same one. Okay, so I will look at it off my old scan, but I think has it come out of my price on the 1 hourly? Oh, it's moved back in now, so I can look at this one. So what's that? And that's still an upward scan, the latest one. USD JPY. So obviously with this one, it will have you know, it's done a lot of trading, but you can see how accurate these things are. So let me just see what's happening on this one in the way I look at things. Let me get rid of that alert over there. Right, so we've got it coming, it's coming, it's an upward scan. So normally I would be, you know, trend is your friend, I would be buying. Interesting, this one, because it's hitting both the pitchfork and the quarter theory line. I just want to, because that's an older scan, I just want to go back. I've got my drawings locked on, my drawing tools. I just want to just have a visual look at it looks fine. It's coming off that one. So they still look, they don't look like, it's only because it's older that I would just double check, but it looks fine, because usually I'm quite careful to always put the drawing lock on, the padlock. But I did come across a couple over the last month or so where they'd slipped, and I thought, oh, I don't know how I've managed that. So I just get a bit nervous that I've still got them accurately on. Okay, so if I look on the 1 hour, get rid of that. Sorry, I haven't looked at this for a while because it had moved here. I didn't have a latest scan of 80 pips, so I wasn't actually trading USD JPY because of that, but it's moved back in now, which says the dollar's, well, it's an upward trend with the USD going up against the Japanese yen. It's moved, you know, it had moved down some way. You can see it's come down through there, back up through quarter theory, broken and retested the extensions, back broken through quarter theory, just missed that by a pip on that pitchfork, come along here, hit that perfectly to the pip on the extension, and it's now hitting off here. So this looks quite interesting. USD JPY, and USD JPY moves at a just look at my list. I think it's a 6 or 7, isn't it? Can't see it. It's a 6 out of 10. Let me take off that. I only use that for exit strategy, not entries. Right, so okay, so it's touched the pitchfork. You must have a pitchfork touch on this strategy. It hasn't. It hasn't done a break and retest of it, so it's probably going to come back down and test it again before it comes back up. So let me put the pivots on and see where the highs and lows are. Then I put a trend line on because I'm expecting it to come down before it goes up. That's one of my confirmations. And it might come through to quarter theory. Who knows, it might test us down to there. So you can see it rejected off the pitchfork, but I would expect a break and retest for it to do that before it goes up again. And I'd be quite interested in that as a buy, but not probably until it's come, you know, that should therefore follow down a bit, the 62 EMA, and then come up. So just so I remember what I'm doing, when I'm looking at something like this, I put on what I was thinking about. 1920, it's going to come up there, and then 10. So I like this to cover pitchfork and quarter theory. That gives me a lot of confidence. So, and this isn't a GBP pair. So if I take that down about there, so that I'm, that to me would be a good entry. Just want to find where that top pitchfork is, the extensions. So go away. Right, so if we put the target at about there, we've covered our pitchfork. Entry price I've got there at 108.569, but I don't know if that's going to be enough, because I'd want to see price come above this 62 EMA. If you remember on the OR JPY, struggling a bit with it because I didn't wait for it to go up above that. So, you know, I put an alert on, which would be, I would want to see, oh, sorry, not that, let me do a, because it's virtually straight on this. So you can use call alerts if you've got the free version of TradingView. I know, add alert on trend line. So I just put reject further buy. So it's retest really. And then my alerts always keep in the same color. Less things you've got for your brain to have to worry about, the better. Become subconscious then. So I've put that there, just a couple of pips above there, so I could see what's going to happen. How many? I usually put my alerts about 3 to 5 pips away, so I'll just move that. Just move that about there, so I can see what's going to happen before it gets to the pitchfork, which is at 108.527. So I'd be looking for an entry of anywhere between 570 and 585, maybe, something like that. And if I just show you, this trend line will move obviously as price moves, but I would, that's another one of my confirmations, is a break and retest of the 1 minute trend line. So that's one to watch for me, round about there. It's coming up now, but as I say, I would like to see it test, or I think, I'm not going to predict, not I would like to see it, because sometimes things just move off, but I'd like to see it break and retest that about 108.510 line, 1-3 it says on here, before it moves up. So let's see if it later, I'll see later if that does that. So that's US JPY, CAD JPY, so that's a possible, let me write it down. Or JPY, I'm in for a buy at the moment, but it's still, you know, below where I want it to be, so I'm in a bit of drawdown. USD JPY is a possible buy. So I've set my alert on that one. Let's look at CAD. I don't know why it's saying that. Didn't think I had that many things. Oh, I know, it could be all my temporary cookies. I've got masses of emails and stuff. Let me close USD JPY because we finished with that one. And I know it should open if I do that. And I haven't actually shut the computer down for a while either, so just leaving it on sleep. So on the hourly, start with the hourly, refresh my memory what's going on. CAD JPY moves at a 5 and it trends very nicely. Oh, I think this was the one, was this the one I posted? Where I said, oh, I can't remember now. Right, okay, so I think I drew that, yes, from 23rd of October. So this is the most recent one that I've drawn. It's an upward trend. The trend is your friend. Buy only to the median. Well, it's gone through the median. So now anything's fair game. It's rejected off the pitch, off the quarter theory there. Didn't get down to the, so it doesn't like going down, does it? This is on the hourly. Strong line of support and resistance, the quarter theory. So it's coming up now, quite strong buy up to the next pitchfork touch. So this probably is not a trade for me because I'll show you what it's doing, but where are we? 14.55. Let's look at the 15-minute candles. So it's above the 62 EMA. It is coming above the pitchfork on the 15-minute, and sorry, it's coming above that pitchfork there, and the quarter theory. Let me just check what that line is there. Oh, okay, so let's go down to the 1 minute, which is where I always enter. So, oh, that's moved quite fast, hasn't it? So I like this because it is although it didn't actually cross, it just ran in parallel. But the 62 has now crossed the 15-minute and turned up. So it touched it there, didn't actually cross either way. It's quite an interesting pattern. You take the pivots off, you don't need to be confused by looking at those. I just wanted to show you where things actually, there we are, there's one. So if you look down here, where the thicker, darker orange line, the 62, let me just hide that, because sometimes I like to go back and back test what I've done. Must be one further down. Yeah, that's it. So here is a clear example of where the 62 EMAs cross the 15 minutes. So once it does that, you know that it's getting strong and it's getting good for a buy. And then, as you can see, it moved up. You've been good for 20 pips there, and quarter theory is quite way down there, so I won't count that. Still above the 62. Here it comes below. You've got another few pips there. It hugs it. It hugs it. It hugs it. It hasn't actually broken. It's run parallel twice. Don't quite know what that means, but to me it's not quite as strong as if it's broken below. So I presume that means it's still more of an upward trend than a downward trend. And here you can see it shooting up to the next pitchfork. So any of you that have got into that, well done, because I didn't get onto that analysis enough quicker. Just the sod's law, which way around we've looked at them, which is why setting alerts are good. So I like this because it has, this is on my 1 minute, it hasn't actually pitchfork touch. Go out to the 15-minute, you can see it better. And that's shooting up. I know there was some Euro news. I didn't have any other news on today. It's the quarter theory it really doesn't like down there. And I've got this as a 6, so it's obviously going to come up to that next pitchfork now. And that's 3 pips away. So it is swinging quite a lot. So it's swung quite wildly, hasn't it? Because normally I'd call that a break and a retest, but not, I mean, that's 20 pips, big movements, big movements. Normally I'm looking for a 10 pip break and retest to say it's touched the pitchfork, because it's slipped through both both ways, quite a lot down to quarter theory, then right up to the next pitchfork, right down to next quarter theory. Look at how many times it doesn't like quarter theory. Back up to the next pitchfork, so 20 pips or so at a time, working its way across 62 and then right up. It'll probably come right up here now. So if I was marking this up, I'll probably put on, let me look up, put on the hull with bands, because this I use for exit strategy, but it's probably show green and green across, yeah, so it's switched. I never take any notice of when it's very small switches. If they're long, then I get out of the trade. So down, and up on the 15 minutes. So strong upward trend with this. It will continue. I would think it will now continue up there, but you know, it's not enough for us to get into a buy, because for me, it's only, I mean, by all means, do what you want from my analysis, but obviously, and what time are we? Oh, it's the hourly as well. So we've got 3.5 to 4 pips there. So we've got an upward trend on CAD JPY. It trends nicely. It moves at a 5. It's done a couple of wild things as far as I can see this morning, and then now it's in a strong upward trend. It didn't like quarter theory, and it slipped through quite a lot from, that's about 20, that must be about 10 pips there, from that pitchfork down to there. Oh, it's only 2 pips, that's because I'm on the 5 minute. Maybe that's why. I would be looking at this as a buy, but not until it's done, for me, not until it's decided it's going to do that, broken through and gone up to the next one. So I would then just set my and that's new USD CAD new scans coming through. But if they're unless they're 80 pips or something, I don't take them. So I'll just put that. I'm going to pop that there, turn it to blue, stick an alert on. And see what it decides it's going to do next at that point, because you know we never predict the market, do we? So the other option is that it does that, or it sidles along, because as we know, as we move into the late evening, what do the pivots tell me? Not a lot, not something I'm going to put a fib on at the moment, because it's moved fast on a few pips, didn't it? Take that off. So I'll probably just leave that personally. How many pips has it moved in a few minutes? Let's put that measurement on there to there. So, oh gosh, it moved 15 pips in 20 minutes. That's what we like if we'd got in there. But I wouldn't have probably got in there anyway, because I would have waited till it had got to there. I wouldn't have traded between there on my strategy. But here I would have got in here, because it would have been above that pitchfork touch back there, rejected off quarter theory so many times as we saw earlier on. And I might have got in there, but how many pips would that have been from there before it turned? 10 pips. So not a great, well, not bad trade, but you can see it's dropping. You'd have to catch it very precisely, and I haven't, from my strategy, I haven't got any other visual indicators. It's turning quite a lot, and I didn't think there was any news on this Thursday. I had all Euro news. Interesting, someone said something maybe. Okay, so that's CAD JPY. I'll just put an alert there for me, see what happens there. USD CHF, our old friend. I'll have a quick look at that. USD CHF. I don't think I have a lot of scans on this pair, and it moves at a 2 out of 10. So for that reason, it's not usually one that I look at a lot. There it is. Just quick look at this, see what it's doing, because I did and I do follow it when we're in our trading sessions in the morning, and I was drawing a channel, I did draw a line on, as you can see. Let me take some of this off my Star Wars charts. So if we go back to the hourly, I can't even remember if I've got a scan or whether we drew a best pitchfork, because it doesn't have a lot of scans, this pair. Don't know why, but it doesn't. So I did have, yes, so it's right outside anything I've got anyway, which is another, I think. Oh no, wait a minute, I think that's right. This had a very, very big scan on it. Huge, massive. So I was trading in that. Well, if I do trade it, this is huge, which we drew in June. So D to C is 478. That's nearly 500. You can actually draw this yourself. All it is really you could draw a best fit pitchfork. I could send you this screen grab and you can draw it your own, because you won't find it now in the Harmonic Scanner. But it goes back to January right up to April, and then to that low point, 24th of June. And you can see it's an upward scan. It's a buy only for me up until the median. This scan will be good to trade for a long time. It's come outside those come inside the extensions. It went right down there. So let's have a look on the 15-minute. As I said, I think I was drawing this morning or yesterday when we were looking at it in the trading we do in the morning. Maybe that one was yesterday. That's 10th of October, 21st. So maybe it's, I can't remember. Maybe it's, I can't remember when I drew this, whether it was this morning or yesterday. So at the moment, what we have is it has rejected quarter theory twice. We know it's come back in between the outer extension, so it's coming into my big main pitchfork. So I'm liking the sound of that. It's now, oh, look at how many times I'm on the 15-minute. Look at how many times it's rejected quarter theory, saying, I want to buy, I want you to buy me, I want you to buy me. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then it's wicked through by its slippage of about 3.5 to 4 pips. But it's also hugging, it's hugged the 62 EMA, but you can see how the 15-minute one is coming down, although 62 at the moment has turned down, but it is working its way up. So, and I'll go to the 1 minute, because I could mark this up and put an alert on it, because we know what it's doing. So although it's a slow mover, so I wouldn't expect, you know, great joy from it instantly. Not like the ones where you can just, you know, get in the trade and they run quick. So let me put trend line on here. See if it's going to break that, break and retest the 1 minute trend line, which is one of my confirmations to get in. So it's breaking and retesting and it's coming up. So I'd be interested in this once it's got through, once price has closed above quarter theory and above the 62 EMA. If I put my pivots on, and then I'll put the MTFA on to see what the whole with bands is doing. So we've got a low to a high. So if I put a fib on that from the low to that high, let's see what line it's hitting down here. Oh, lovely, look at that. Perfect rejection off the 88.6. I'm loving that. So that to me is looking very good for a buy. But personally, I would wait until it comes above the quarter theory line, because that's such a strong line of support and resistance. And how many pips away from that is it? It is at the moment, as I say, slow moving pair, only 1.4 pips. So slow moving pair, a 2 out of 10, doesn't move that wildly, but this is looking nice for a buy because of all the things I've said, plus this perfect to the T, the pip, absolute pip, and the 88.6 is the strongest one, like a boomerang, where price will snap back. So so to mark this up, I would now draw another. I never know whether I do things right, by the way. I've just kind of got my own little system with what I look at in some respects. So I'm just drawing that so my eye, when I come back to this, knows what I remember I was looking at. So I'm looking at this for a buy at, let me get the brush, round about here, above that quarter theory. So I'll take my long position and I'll put it, go up 20. So I think this might be my trade of this session. Where are we? Oh, 10 past. So we all need to go in a minute. Sure, you've got better things to do than hang around with me after an hour. So there's the 10 pips down there. We've had, where are we on the hour? So we had, let's see how the hourly candle closed. Hourly candle strong down. Strong down, but I'm not worried about that because of everything we've said. It's a slow moving pair. It's come back in on the extensions. It's had a perfect rejection off that 88.6 on the 1 minute, and I think it's turning now. So I like that one for a buy. Although it's not our favourite pair, and it's not one that I trade a lot because it moves so slowly. And I don't always have that patience. Let's go back to the 1 minute, which is where I always enter. So I've put my, I'll just put an alert on, then we can leave that one just quickly. There we are, just put it on quarter point. And let me just put stick on a, let me stick an alert on. Take the magnet off, would help. Okay, okie doke. Well, that's about how many pips away from quarter point, 0.7. I put it there on the 62, change it to blue because that's what I always do with alerts. Add alert. I won't bother writing something in at the moment, and let me just edit it. Let me just extend. Line. Wants to some settings. Extend right line. Okay, that's a good one. I think USD CHF buy after quarter theory at 0.99000. For me, I would not get into a buy until it's gone through that strong line of support and resistance. AUD USD, and then let me look at NZ USD first. NZD, just quickly run through them all. NZD USD. NZD USD is, that moves it to 2. So this is one I very, very rarely trade. because of that, although for some reason I've been marking stuff up. So where are we at the moment? Because I can see it's moving through a particular point of interest. Let's look at where my scan was on the hourly. So what have we got? It's moved out of my new scan and into an old one, which is this one from the, which isn't my favorite type of scan because you can see how flat the lines are, the pitchfork lines, and these are reversal points. So not a brilliantly drawn, not a brilliant, I don't mean my drawing isn't brilliant, I mean it's not a brilliant pattern of scan. So that's from the 10th, that's from the 7th of June. However, you know, it's still tradable. Put my magnet on, I don't want things slipping. So we've got a downward trend on NZD USD, and it's coming below, it's caught at the moment just below, it's come down off that pitchfork and below quarter theory, and now it's touching this. So actually a very interesting point for me. So go to the 15-minute, which is easier, which is where I do my analysis. Just magnify it for you. So we know we've got a downward trend. It's not the most brilliant of scans. We know it's a slow moving pair, which may affect whether you find it's a favorite to trade or not. I'm never in more than 3 trades at once, and I don't trade correlating pairs. So if I'm in an odd JPY trade, I wouldn't trade an NZD pair myself, because then you've doubled your risk on loss or gain. But so at the moment it's rejected off the pitchfork, but it's also rejecting off quarter theory. It's below the 62 EMA, and let's look at the pivots. So if I stick a fib on that for a sell, so I'm more inclined to a sell. You can see you've got lower highs and lower lows, and we know it's a downward facing scan. I put my fib on from high to low, down to there. That's the magnets. We've got, it hasn't quite touched the 88.6 there. And let's take the pivots off while I look at that. And it hasn't touched the 61.8, so it's not perfectly rejecting off the 88.6, which makes it a bit weaker. Let me go to the 1 minute. It's hugging the 62 at the moment. The 1 minute line is coming down. There's your quarter theory. So I'd be expecting it. As I say, I'm not a great fan of this pair because it's so slow. It just doesn't. I've got other trades that I do. So look, it did. That's the best trend at the moment, but for me. But and then what's it doing on that side? So I'll be looking for it to break this, and come down. So if I put a short position on that, and then I'll look at it later. Although I need to check where it touched the pitchfork. Excuse me. That's a fib line. There's the pitchfork there, which is probably at about 10 pips. So that's 8.8. So let me just go back out, refresh my memory on where it's touching pitchforks. I've forgotten. That's, as I say, it's quite a flat scan, so that's another reason I'm not very fond of this, because you can see the lines are running virtually parallel to some of our other things, so it's not really very strong scan for a downward trend, so I probably wouldn't want to trade this anyway. But it touched the, where's it touching the pitchfork? This is the next one, isn't it, here? So it's between the quarter theory and the pitchfork. I don't think personally, for me, I'd want to look at it until it came down about here. So what I'll do is change that to my alert and look at it when it decides what it's doing at this next pitchfork level. But I probably wouldn't trade it anyway because it's not one of my favorites. So just stick an add alert on, and I'm gonna leave that. So that's a possible sell, but you know, it's not one of my favorites. So AUD USD I wanted to look at, and then we're just about done on the US pairs, unless there's any other questions or anything else you want to ask me. And I'm sorry I'm not checking Facebook. I was just trying to concentrate on getting this right. AUD USD, where have you gone? AUD USD. AUD USD is a, oh, this is a 2 as well. And I don't know if I've got any scans on this. Have I got scans on this? Yes, I have now. I've written on my notes, no scan. I must have found some since, or someone gave me one, because this wasn't one where I had a lot of scans on. That's on the 4 hourly. And my scan was from June. And it's a very slow moving pair. It's moved right outside. It's just coming back in. I'm not going to look at this in detail. I can see that I was doing a trade. I'll take all that off. I'm not going to back test any of that. So obviously I did do a trade on this that I then spoke about with you in the group. Just clear some of it up. That's it. Okay, so an old scan, I don't think I've got any new ones that I've missed at the moment, on my principle of they must be a minimum of 80 pips. I've got it moving under quarter theory back into the extensions, and I've got the 62 EMA coming up to meet it. I don't know where the 1 minute is on the hourly. We can look on the lower one. So you know, not a bad idea. AUD USD, but I just wouldn't be looking at it myself until it's moved further down, back into the pitchforks. Let me take off the Hullwood bands. Don't need to be looking at that. So I'll just stick a trend line on. This is my general direction. So for me, the trend is something like that at the moment. Just get it a bit. I just want to take off the extend right. Because I tend to put these sort of things just down where I think I'm going, unless it's an alert. So that's on the 15 minute. I've got a downward trend. I've got it below quarter theory, coming back into the extension. So what I want to see it do is this. So it'll do a break and a retest and then down. There's my 1 minute. So I won't be looking at it until about price is about 0.68, 200 to 240, depending on and then I put an alert on. Well, seeing as I'm here, I may as well do that now. I'll just put an alert on for myself to look at that. This side of the line. Put that on in blue. Add alert. Because for me, if it moves back outside these extensions, I can't take it because I haven't got any other scan, and I wouldn't trade without my pitchforks, although you have got a band here, you know, so that's entirely up to you. You know, the band for me between, what do we say, 68, 200, and the next quarter theory point is about 30 pips. But I'm thinking it's moving down. You can see there, if we go on the 1 minute, it is coming down below that 62 EMA. It's flatlining a bit at the moment, but there's the trend on the 1 minute. There to there, down to that pitchfork, outer extension. I don't know if it's going to go in a channel. Probably not, but we'll see. Is there a channel there? No, there isn't. Only a few pips. It's probably not going to move that steeply. How many pips is that? Sometimes I trade between the channels, but that's only 6 pips, so it's that's probably not going to do it. Okay, so that's it on AUD USD. That's not a trade for me at the moment. AUD, and then I'll check back on AUD JPY, AUD USD. I'll put sell, and then I put in brackets extensions, and I've set an alert so I can have a look later. And then NZD USD we've done. Euro CAD, I think, did we look at Euro CAD? I think we did. Let me, GBP USD, what's happening on that? Just look at that, and I want to look at Euro CAD and go back to AJ, and then that's it. Okay, so on the hourly, I do like Euro CAD, and I quite like GBP USD. I did 42 pips on that Boris News the other night. This moves in the London to New York crossover, and it's a 7. So we've got an upward scan. Obviously, we've got Brexit and all that stuff going on. The green lines are old pitchforks, so I probably haven't faded them out an awful lot. So let me just fade them out for you a bit. You don't see so much confusion. Is that enough? Okay, so we've got break and retest of the D point, moved up to the next pitchfork hit, but that was news which I was in that evening, right up to the median, dropped back down almost to the D point line, back up through quarter theory. But I mean, as I say, it's all skewed by news, isn't it? So you can't, you know, just go off this really. But it's one of my favourite pairs that we're just starting to look at. So this plus the next one. So I think I'll go straight down to the 1 minute. Let's just cut to the chase on the 1 minute. USD Chef says it's moving. So that's coming above, what time are we? Coming up to the half-hour candle. So I'd look at the half-hour candle because of the time, and I always look at the hourly, and I look at 15-minute candles. So we've had a long wick of that sell candle. There's a wick on this buy candle in the last minute, but it see how it closes if you can bear it for another 50 seconds, because this was a possible buy that we could get in. but we were going to wait for it to come above that quarter point, weren't we? 99,000 to close above that on the lower time frame. The last 30 seconds. There's a wick at the bottom of that buy candle. Let's see what the hourly does. As we know, it's slow moving pair. Might take a little bit longer. I'll just quickly drop down through the other time frames. Is it going to engulf this sell candle? Yes, it is. So that's moved up. So you could actually think about buying this because the hourly's closed. Although there is a wick at the bottom of it, it's opening above the 62 EMA. It's a slow-moving pair though, so don't get too jumpy on it. Where's the 15-minute and 5-minute and the 1 minute? So it is moving up. I mean, that is a buy. If you want to buy that, you can. You will get your pips from this now. If I'm going to buy it, I'm going to have to stop screen sharing because I've got my live account on this computer and I can't do it off my phone. I haven't moved that broker. Look at that moving now on your USD, chef. So it's come up above the 62. On the 1 minute, it's above quarter point. It is now above the 1 minute. And I would move my, we liked that. This is the one that had that nice rejection, didn't it? I don't know why it's moving so fast though. But you can see that the 62 has turned.
News there, Sarah.
Is there news? Oh, is this the USD news coming in?
Yeah. Initial jobless claims of just 230, so that's why there's a little bit of movement there. Red flag news.
Oh,
USD.
right, okay, so perhaps not a good one to get in then.
Yeah,
I know I checked it, but
yeah,
I can't see it on there. But I only have reds and greys on mine. I don't.
Well, what I do, Sarah, is I do use the Forex factory one, but obviously there isn't much on there as regards what's going on. But if you go to myfxbook.com, it's got.
Oh, okay.
I normally go on there and do like a double check just to make sure that
Okay, yeah, that's worth knowing. Thank you.
I always get a second opinion on the news because the different ones tell you different things.
Well, yeah, I've got nothing that said why this should be suddenly moving so fast because it doesn't usually do that.
Yeah, well, on Forex factory, there's nothing.
No.
For it, but it's on my FX book. It's saying that there's news at 2:30 there, which is red flag.
Right. What is
initial
the announcement, or doesn't it say?
I think that's got something to do. It hasn't actually. Hang on, I'll just refresh it. It hasn't come through yet.
Okay, well there's the reason why it's gone up then like that, because it suddenly shot up, didn't it? It's gone up. Well, for USD chef, it's gone up 7 pips.
Yeah, well, like I say, there's no mention of it on the Forex factory.
So normally, what I do on news is I then wait for the end of that news spike and move my fib to the end of it. And what normally happens, I can't say it happens every time, so trade at your own risk, is it will retrace back to the 50%. That was something from Oren Wright. So you have a little ping back trade, but it's probably not worth doing anyway on this currency pair because that's 3 pips. And that's what he teaches. In fact, I need to, yeah, it's gone back, going straight back down. Oh, well, there we go. I need to start looking at my FX book then, because that took me by surprise on that one. Okay, so that's, I just wanted to go to last two, EuroCAD, and look, check back on my trade. I've got something, right, not going to bother with that. Where did I put my EuroCAD? Okay, so EuroCAD, I do like this pair. 1 hourly, there's my scan. So it's gone up and it's gone down there. Oh, and there's a quarter theory there, which I like. I like the fact it's got that to play with. Let me go to the 15-minute. And it, on the 15-minute, it is wicking through quarter theory. Can't decide whether it's trying to, it's an upward scan, but it can't decide if it wants to push down to that extension. That's what it looks like it's doing, because both the 62 and the 930 line are coming down slightly. So if I look at the pivots, lazy man's highs and lows, oh, well, it is going up. It has got higher lows there, but nothing formed there at the moment. So for me, anyway, on my strategy, I'm only looking at this as a buy. Normally, the strongest trades using this strategy where you've had break and retest off the D point. So actually, I'm expecting this to go up. It's because it's done a break and a retest there, and it's done it again here, but it's wicking through on that strong line of support and resistance. So my preference on this, or not my preference, I would only myself, because of my strategy, be trading this as a buy. I'll just stick that on like that. And see what it does. And I'm going to stick an alert on here. Now, the reason I like this trade is because it's if it's going to come up as a buy, it will have come off that. It will have come off one of the strongest reversals, which is a rejection of the D point, not once but twice. It will have rejected quarter theory and come above that pitchfork. So I really like that, the look of that kind of trade. But for me, it's always sort of once it's above that 62 EMA. So I'm just going to change that to an alert. Add alert. And I won't put it below that line because I haven't really got, it's on that line at the moment. So I just want to see what it's, should I do it? It'll only keep pinging off. It's a bit of a strange one. I don't quite know where to put my alert. Yeah, thought it would do that. Let me, all right. Let me just, I'll just do that for the moment, and I'll just settings. I'll just let me extend it. Okay. So I like the look of that for a buy, possibly, but for my strategy, because it hasn't come up to the median, and I do like EuroCAD anyway, I'm waiting for it to come above 1.5500, which is quarter point, plus off that pitchfork. So I want to see it do that, which is a break and a retest of the pitchfork once it's decided it's coming above this quarter theory, and it's making its mind up at the moment on quarter theory. And I want to see it above the 62 EMA. And then I've got a long position on that of, so if I put it about, if I got in about there, I don't always stick with the 20, but I just do it for the purpose of this at the moment, because if this is going to move, then it will go up to, the 1.46000. I don't need a big stop loss on this once it moves, because it's below, it's got 2 lines of protection. So I'll just tidy that up. profit 20, stop level 10. So my stop loss is covered by both the pitchfork and quarter theory. So I like that because price will have to struggle a lot to break through those two and stop me out. And then I'll probably, you know, what you can do is you can either take your money and run at the 20 pip point, or you can stack in with a risk-free trade. Or you can decide that, you know, you're just going to carry on with it. But I don't, you know, it depends which way you want to play it, you know, how strongly upwards it's going or anything like that. So normally what I do is, as you've seen me do, I will do this. This is my preferred way of doing it. I put the horizontal line on, say I got in at, I don't know what price it will be, but 5580. So 783, so 583, so 683 would be 10 pips, and then I put my, once it hits that point, I set an alert for it to hit there. That's at 682. I always do those lines in blue, and then I put my stop USD JPY's pinging. I put my stop profit in about 1.583, just about 1.5 pips, so that I've got a stop profit in, and then if it stops me out, I've not lost any money with spreads and commissions, something like that for a risk-free trade. So I'll look at that next. Then I get in, then I set the alert for 10 pips. And then at that point, you can then open up another trade at this risk-free point, and then you're stacking in. So you could stack in another from there up to there, which gives you another 20 pips, rather than just let this one run and then you might lose out because it just pulls back. You know, you open up another trade. That's the way we do it on this. If you want to swing trade this scalping strategy, so it's a bit of a mixture, this. And I can see that's, anyway, I'm not going to sit and look at that one. I'm going to leave that, but I do like EuroCAD. And then the last one I want to look at is, we just had a ping there on USD JPY, didn't we? But I just wanted to look at, I had one other I wanted to look at, EuroCAD AJ. Well, I'll leave that for a minute. I'll just look at USD JPY. Leave that as well. Come out of that. I don't want to look at that. I want to look at USD JPY very quickly. Thank you everyone for your patience. USD JPY, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. On what's happening on our USD JPY. So the reason I had that alert set is because I said I wanted to see if it would ping above quarter theory, and in fact it's doing that. So that's why I had the alert set. So now I'll be doing the same sort of thing, redrawing my trend lines, waiting for it just to come above that 62. Patience is your friend in Forex. Money is the transfer from the impatient to the patient. So you want to be just getting above this here before you get in, checking your trend is up with a break and a retest and using your confirmations. You know, that's what I do on this strategy, and I have a trade sheet that tells us, you know, has it pinged off the 88.6 or the 61.8 fib? Is it above the 62 EMA? Have you got a pitchfork touch? You must have that. Have you got a break and a retest of the 1 minute trend? So we use the same, or a rejection or a breakthrough of the quarter theory. So we have to have 3 confirmations to get in the trade, and then we add on 2 for the exit strategy, which is have you hit your daily goal, your trade goal, and has it got a double flip on the Hull MTFA. So I'm just lastly going to look at the trade I'm in, which of course, as you can see, has stopped me out and gone right down. Thanks very much. So I lost that one. So just as well I didn't call that while you lot were on then. So that probably means it'll go up. It'll go up in the Asian session. So I think my mistake here was not picking a hot pair. That was I don't quite know why I did it. I just liked the look of it at the time. It must have been something to do with my fib. So there we are. That's gone down. Oh, gone right down. So it's come right outside. It's touched right through that D point. That's a big move. Oh, don't like that. Never mind, these things happen, as they say. So I expect that's just swung more wildly and it'll come back up again now. What time are we at? Quarter candle. So we've had a flat bottom, sale candle. It didn't fill the orders there and it's turning now. So it just swung down lower. I think that was the one where I said, will it, I should have set a bigger stop loss, but I try not to play with it. I think it was that one. Just go back to my 1 minute. So that's it for me today, and thank you for joining. I'm just looking at where so it's come right below that and outside that pitchfork. And there's quarter theory. Oh well, all good. Right outside my 10 pip stop loss. And it didn't even go up, did it? Didn't even go anywhere near my 10 pip. Just turned the other way. But that's nothing to do with news, is it? And NZD's going off now. So NZD, which is a slow moving pair, it's under the 62. Go on the 1 minute. It's come under the 62. It's dropping quite nicely. And it's coming down to retest that pitchfork, I think. Now. So that one's moving in the right direction. Coming into the last 10 minutes of the hour though, so we don't always take trades at that point, or I don't, because they can fake out in a different direction as bankers, you know, make their moves the opposite way to what they want to do. But that is moving the right way, although it's got this pitchfork now there. So what time did it come off that quarter theory? 2:45, and it's now 4:45. Is that right? Yes. So in an hour. So that has moved nicely. We missed that one. And the reason I didn't get into that is because it wasn't below the 62 EMA at the time. I think that was why. And there was that quarter theory point. But it's moving now. So not a trade for me at the moment because it's coming up. I'm too late on it and it's coming up on that pitchfork line. So it would have been better somewhere up here, wouldn't it? Off that quarter point. But that was where we drew our trend. Let me put the pivots on. So it just moved at a, well, they're all heading off now after that news. AUD USD's moving. I don't really like AUD USD. So we've got a new trend line. Let's look at the pivots. So this news sent everything a bit crazy. Trend line, just put that on. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't report a win on my AUD JPY.
I was just going to say, Sarah, there's just some more come through there.
More news?
Yeah, a couple of minutes ago. Medium news on my FX book. And it's worse than expected on one and it's better than expected on the other. So it should balance itself out really. But
right.
I think it's just sometimes in anticipation, don't they? The sort of like buy to try and second guess which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
Sell, whichever way they think it's going to go. But it seems to have cancelled each other out. That's why we're getting these little bursts of price action.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just suddenly burst, doesn't it? Unfortunately for me, the wrong way on one of mine.
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah, according to this, there's another one coming up as well.
Well, look how steep that is going now on
Yeah.
that one. So they're all pinging off at me, and they're all doing crazy things.
Yeah.
Suddenly, when nothing much was happening.
No, there's another one at 3 or 4 p.m. where you are.
Yeah.
That's red flag, and that's new home sales month on month.
Well, I'm obviously not getting very much on Forex Factory, but look, this one's just slamming down, and this is a slow-moving pair again.
Yeah.
And all I did there was move these two trend lines across, this one and that one, and they're exactly the same pattern. Something I like doing, and then I must this bars pattern. You can do that, and then you can. Whoops, that's going off again. So that repeated up there, but then slammed down. Sometimes the patterns just repeat exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously something's affected this, but and a slow-moving pair. Okay, well that's all from me for today.
Excellent, Sarah.
I obviously need to look at myfxbook.com because I just thought I was looking out for Euro today.
Yeah, there's still a bit to go, but the rest of there's a medium one around about 8 p.m. tonight, monthly budget statement. The rest are low, but I don't know. I just like to double check me and get like a second opinion.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's just moved 11 pips in about a minute or two, and that's very unusual, isn't it, for that pair? Okie doke, Les, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it.
No problem.
I know anybody else that's joined me.
Thank you.
But I didn't have a lot on mine that was setting up, really. I've got someone watching, 3 buys and 2 sells. So I've got all JPY, which would be a buy, but that went down at the moment. I'm sure it will come back up, but at the moment that stopped me out. USD JPY is a buy, but of course you've got a bit of this news. I've got USD Chef as a buy, but after it's hit through that quarter theory at 95. NZD USD as a sell. Well, it has just done that, but it just burst out of nowhere. And then AUD USD is a sell. And I've put in brackets extensions on that. I can't remember why till I look at it. Not very good memory.
I mean, whatever it's doing on this US dollar news, it's having a secondary impact on the Canadian dollar as well.
Is it?
Yeah, from what I can see, there's a little bit of movement.
Oh, look at that. I've just come onto my CAD JPY.
Yeah, it's definitely having an impact on that as well.
And look, that's dropped. That's just dropped. Wow, what a crazy day. Yeah, that's just dropped 16 pips in 20 minutes.
So yeah, there's something.
And it didn't even give me the that move up to the pitchfork. It just dropped from there and right through the next one and through quarter theory.
Yeah, unless it's the banks at work, Sarah. We don't know now, do we?
Add that into the mix. AUD CAD. What's it doing on? Although that's not one of my favourite pairs to look at. I've got all this going off now. So AUD CAD. That's the 30-minute one. And then hopefully I'll see you later on yours, Les.
Yeah, no problem, Sarah. I'll be on at 6:30 and we'll just see.
Yeah. That one's working its way down. Bye, Edward. Thanks for joining. Hope you found it useful. Bye, Les.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.